Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk to you about something that lives deep within all of us. Fear. It whispers in our ears when we're about to take a risk. It paralyzes us when we face the unknown. It convinces us to shrink when we were born to rise. But I'm here to tell you something powerful. You were not born to live in fear. You were born to become fearless. Fear is one of the most primal human emotions. It's hardwired into our biology as a survival mechanism. When we sense danger, whether physical, emotional, or social, fear alerts us, slows us down, and urges us to retreat. That instinct once helped us escape predators and stay alive. But in today's world, fear often masks itself in more subtle ways. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of judgment. While it still serves a purpose, it no longer needs to dominate us. Too many people mistake fear as a red light, a sign to stop, turn back, or give up. But in truth, fear can often be a green light pointing us toward growth. The presence of fear in a decision doesn't necessarily mean it's the wrong choice. In fact, it often means you're standing on the edge of something meaningful. Fear is loudest, not when we're in danger, but when we're close to change. Think about all the times you let fear steer the wheel. Maybe you wanted to speak up in a meeting, but you stayed silent. Maybe you had a dream to start something new, but talked yourself out of it. Maybe you loved someone, but never said it out loud. Each time, fear didn't protect you, it held you back. And every decision based on fear becomes a small prison that builds around your life. The problem isn't fear itself. The problem is how much power you give it. When fear becomes the deciding voice in your life, it quietly starts writing your story. And it never writes a bold one. Fear will always choose comfort over courage, safety over growth, and silence over impact. But you have another voice inside you, your intuition, your purpose, your passion. The key is learning which one to follow. Making decisions based on fear often leads to the life you think you want. Stable, predictable, low risk, but it rarely leads to the life you really want. Meaningful, challenging, and alive. A fearless life isn't about erasing fear. It's about refusing to obey it. The moment you stop letting fear make your decisions is the moment you start truly living. Start noticing the difference between real danger and imagined fear. Most of what we fear in modern life won't kill us. It might make us uncomfortable, embarrassed, or challenged, but that's part of the process. When you realize fear is more like a shadow than a wall, it loses its grip. The fear doesn't go away, but it shrinks when you stop feeding it. Every major breakthrough in life comes after a moment of courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more. It's standing at the edge of fear and choosing to leap anyway. And once you do that, even once, something changes. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to understand that fear can visit, but it doesn't get to stay. So the next time fear shows up, and it will, don't treat it like a stop sign. Treat it like a signal. Acknowledge it, but don't follow it. Ask yourself, if fear wasn't a factor, what would I choose? Then make that decision, because that's where your growth is. That's where your potential lives, and that's how you begin to become fearless. There's a common misconception that fearless people are somehow different from the rest of us, that they don't feel fear, that they're immune to doubt or hesitation, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Fearless people feel fear just like everyone else. The difference is they've learned not to let fear run their lives. They've trained themselves to act even when they're scared. Being fearless isn't about erasing fear. It's about developing the discipline to move forward anyway. We often think of fear as a sign of weakness or inadequacy, but in reality, it's a signal of humanity. Everyone feels fear. Athletes before a big game, performers before a show, entrepreneurs before launching something new. The presence of fear doesn't disqualify you from greatness. In fact, it often accompanies it. The people you admire, those who take risks, lead movements, or break boundaries, they didn't wait for fear to vanish before they began. They acted through it. Fear becomes dangerous not when it shows up, but when it becomes the ruler of your decisions. When it tells you who you are, what you're allowed to do, and where you're allowed to go. It starts quietly. Maybe it convinces you not to speak your truth, not to try something new, or not to stand out. Over time, if you keep listening, it becomes the loudest voice in the room. It dominates your thinking, clouds your clarity, and steals. That's when fear becomes the ruler, not just a feeling, but a force that shapes your entire life. The real shift begins when you stop letting fear lead, when you realize that fear can exist in the backseat, but it doesn't get to touch the steering wheel. This means making a conscious decision to notice fear, honor it as part of the process, but not obey it. You start to understand that fear is information, not instruction. Just because you're afraid doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It might mean you're exactly where you need to be. Learning to live with fear rather than try to eliminate it frees you. When you expect fear to be part of any meaningful journey, you stop being surprised by its presence. You prepare for it, plan around it, and build resilience through it. You grow more comfortable being uncomfortable. You stop waiting for the perfect moment to begin because you understand that fear will always be part of the beginning. Being fearless, then, is not a fixed trait. It's a practiced mindset. It's a muscle you build by choosing to act again and again, even when fear tells you not to. The more you stretch that muscle, the stronger it gets. Over time, things that once terrified you begin to feel manageable, even routine. But that growth only happens if you're willing to feel the fear and still take the leap. And sometimes being fearless means admitting that you are scared and doing it anyway. It means not pretending to be fearless, but instead becoming someone who doesn't wait to be unafraid. It's honest, it's raw, and it's real power. Fearless people don't bluff. They show up fully, courage and fear both present, but with the courage slightly louder. That's what leadership looks like. That's what personal power feels like. So when you feel fear rise in your chest, don't panic. Don't pull back. Remind yourself fear is part of the path. Your job isn't to eliminate it. Your job is to walk beside it, head held high. That's how you train yourself to stop being ruled by fear. And the more you do it, the more fearless you become. Not in absence of fear, but in spite of it. Fear and excitement are two emotions that often live side by side. The physiological response is nearly identical. Racing heart, quickened breath, butterflies in the stomach. The difference lies in perception. What you label as fear may actually be unrecognized excitement. And in many cases, the things that trigger both feelings are exactly the things that carry the most potential for personal growth. That's why fear should be avoided. It should be examined, decoded, and sometimes followed. Think about the moments in your life that truly change you. The decisions that made you stronger, wiser, more confident. Chances are they weren't comfortable. Maybe you took a leap you weren't sure you were ready for. Maybe you faced something you'd been avoiding. Maybe you risked something meaningful. Your pride, your time, your security. In each of those moments, fear was present, but so was transformation. Growth often wears the mask of fear. We tend to believe that if something scares us, it's a signal to stop. But more often, it's a sign that what we're considering holds real stakes, real weight. That's why it matters. Fear tends to show up when we're approaching the edges of our comfort zone, the invisible boundary that separates who we are from who we could be. Growth lives on the other side of that boundary. To get there, you must pass through the threshold of fear. The goals that scare you, the job you're not sure you're qualified for, the story you've never told, the business idea you kept secret, those goals scare you because they hold power, because achieving them would change you. That's what makes them so intimidating, but also what makes them so necessary. When you begin to view fear not as a warning but as a compass, everything shifts. You stop running from fear and start walking toward it. Not every fear is meant to be chased, but the ones that sit at the intersection of fear and longing, those are the ones that matter most. If you can't stop thinking about it, if it both excites and unnerves you, that's a clue. It's a sign that what you're facing isn't danger, it's destiny. You don't feel that inner tension because something is wrong. You feel it because something is calling you forward. Many people never grow because they wait for the fear to go away before they move. But fear doesn't dissolve on its own. It shrinks when you take action, and it disappears when you replace it with purpose. Once you understand that fear is often a doorway to growth, you stop fearing fear itself. You begin to treat fear not as a wall, but as a gateway, something to walk through, not walk away from. It's helpful to reflect on what specifically you fear about the challenge ahead. Often, it's not the outcome that scares you. It's the vulnerability, the possibility of failure, the exposure of trying and being seen. But here's the truth. Growth demands vulnerability. There's no expansion without risk. Every time you avoid what scares you, you strengthen the walls of limitation around your life. But every time you face it, even briefly, you crack those walls just enough for your future self to get through. Fear is not your enemy, it's your indicator. The path that scares you, that stretches you, that demands more from you, that's the path that holds your next level. The very fact that it scares you is proof that you care. It means it matters. And if it matters, you owe it to yourself to move toward it, not away from it. Growth doesn't come without fear, but when you follow fear with intention, growth becomes inevitable. Growth and comfort rarely live in the same room. We often crave progress, confidence, and personal power, yet we resist the discomfort required to earn them. But transformation doesn't happen in ease, it happens in tension. Discomfort is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's often proof that you're doing something right. Every meaningful change in your life will first ask you to pass through some kind of discomfort, uncertainty, or fear. Discomfort is the training ground for mental and emotional resilience. Just like a muscle is torn before it's rebuilt stronger, your character is tested in moments of stress and challenge. If you only ever move through life in comfort, you never give yourself the chance to stretch beyond your limits. You never learn what you're capable of. It's through facing discomfort that you become more grounded, more focused, and more equipped to handle what life throws at you. When fear shows up, it brings with it the pressure of the unknown. That pressure can either crush you or refine you depending on how you respond. Think of fear as fire. Left unchecked, it can consume you, but if you step into it deliberately, with intention and courage, it becomes a forge. A forge takes raw material and makes it stronger through exposure to heat. That's exactly what fear and discomfort do to us. They burn away the excess and reveal the core of who we are. Avoiding discomfort might feel like self-preservation, but over time, it becomes self-limiting. You start shrinking to fit what's familiar. You stop taking the kind of risks that lead to breakthroughs. The more you avoid challenge, the more fragile you become. But the more you lean into discomfort, the more anti-fragile you become. You don't just survive difficulty, you grow stronger because of it. That's how real transformation works. Often people are waiting to feel ready before they face fear. But readiness doesn't come before action, it comes as a result of it. You don't feel ready to give a speech until you give one. You don't feel ready to start a business until you start taking the first steps. Every act of courage is preceded by uncertainty, awkwardness, and fear. You earn readiness through movement, not meditation. And that movement almost always feels uncomfortable at first. The discomfort that accompanies fear is not a flaw, it's feedback. It's your body and mind reacting to growth. If you avoid that discomfort, you also avoid your evolution. But if you can learn to sit in it, breathe through it, and even welcome it, you'll find that discomfort is one of the most honest teachers you'll ever have. It reveals your triggers, your stories, your habits, and gives you the opportunity to rewrite them. The truth is, nobody becomes extraordinary without passing through fear. No one becomes confident without first feeling insecure. No one becomes resilient without facing setbacks. Discomfort is not a punishment, it's a process. It means you are in the middle of a shift. Something inside you is expanding, evolving, becoming. That's not weakness. That's growth in motion. So if you find yourself afraid, anxious, or uncomfortable as you pursue something meaningful, good. That means you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Don't try to escape it. Don't numb it. Don't wait for it to pass. Instead, recognize it as the forge. This is where the old version of you gets burned away. This is where strength is created. And this is how you begin to transform. Fear is temporary. It may feel overwhelming in the moment. It might race through your chest, cloud your thoughts, or make your voice tremble. But it fades. It passes. On the other hand, regret has a much longer shelf life. It lingers in your thoughts, often in silence, showing up in the quiet moments when you wonder, what if I had tried? What if I had said yes? What if I hadn't been so afraid? Fear is sharp, but regret is slow and heavy. And it has the power to follow you for years, even decades. One of the greatest tragedies in life isn't failure, it's missed opportunity. So many people carry unspoken dreams, untold stories, and unlived versions of themselves because they let fear dictate their choices. They play it safe, not realizing that safety can come at a cost. You might avoid discomfort in the short term, but you sacrifice discovery, growth, and fulfillment in the long term. The pain of taking a risk is real, but the pain of never knowing what could have been is often worse. Regret doesn't only come come from massive life decisions. It accumulates in the small, repeated choices we make to stay silent, stay hidden, or stay put. The job you didn't apply for, the person you didn't express your feelings to, the trip you didn't take, the idea you never pursued. Each of these moments seems small in isolation, but they add up and eventually form a life shaped more by avoidance than by ambition. That's the hidden cost of fear-driven living. When we think about risk, we often imagine worst-case scenarios. We picture rejection, embarrassment, or failure. But we rarely ask ourselves, what is the cost of not trying? That question changes everything. Because when you look at life through the lens of long-term meaning, the real danger lies not in risk, but in regret. You can recover from a mistake. You can rebuild after a failure, but you can't get back the time you spent holding back. Older people don't often regret the risks they took, even when they failed. What they regret are the chances they didn't take, the words they didn't say, the dreams they buried, the moments they let pass by. Studies on end-of-life reflections show this pattern again and again. We regret inaction more than action. That truth should change how we weigh our fear. If the price of safety is lifelong regret, is it really worth it? Fear thrives on short-term thinking. It convinces you to make decisions based on today's discomfort rather than tomorrow's possibility. It urges you to avoid pain now without considering the cost of that avoidance in the years to come. But the strongest, most fulfilled people are the ones who learn to zoom out, to think long-term, to choose courage even when it stings, and to prioritize growth over comfort. They know that pain is a price, but regret is a debt. It's important to ask yourself, will I be proud of this decision 10 years from now? Will I wish I had been braver? These questions cut through the noise of fear and help you align with your future self. Your future self doesn't care about temporary awkwardness or short-term failure. Your future self cares about meaning, legacy, and a life well lived. And that life is rarely found on the path of least resistance. So the next time you feel fear creeping in, remember this: fear may win the moment, but regret can steal a lifetime. Let that awareness be your motivator. Let it push you not to perfection, but to participation, to step into the arena of life even when you feel unready. The more chances you take, the fewer regrets you'll carry. And in the end, that's how a fearless life is built. Not by never feeling afraid, but by refusing to live with the weight of what you never dared to do. Many people believe that confidence is the starting point, the thing you need in order to act boldly, speak clearly, or pursue something new. But in reality, confidence is never the starting point. Courage is. Confidence is the outcome of repeated courageous acts, not the prerequisite for them. You don't become confident by waiting to feel ready. You become confident by being willing to take a step while still feeling unsure, unqualified, and afraid. Courage is what moves you before you believe in yourself. It's the internal spark that says, do it anyway. It's that flicker of defiance that refuses to let fear make your choices for you. Courage is raw, unpolished, and often accompanied by self-doubt. It doesn't come with certainty. It comes with risk. And yet, it's through courage, through that initial leap into the unknown, that confidence slowly begins to form. Think of confidence like a muscle. You don't build a muscle by thinking about it, you build it by using it. But the first time you walk into the gym, you don't feel strong. You feel awkward, out of place, maybe even embarrassed. The strength comes later. In the same way, confidence is built through repetition. The first time you speak in public, confront a fear, or try something new, you probably won't feel confident at all. You'll feel exposed, vulnerable. And that's exactly why courage matters more in the beginning. Courage is uncomfortable because it requires you to move without guarantees. You don't know how people will respond. You don't know if it will work. You don't know if you'll succeed or fail, but you choose to act anyway. That moment, when you step forward without certainty, that is where growth begins. Over time, each of those moments adds up. The more you act with courage, the more you start proving to yourself that you can handle discomfort, rejection, and challenge. And that is where confidence starts to grow. Confidence is not a magical quality that only some people are born with. It's earned. It's a byproduct of action. The people you see as confident weren't born that way. They just showed up more often. They kept trying even when they felt like imposters. They didn't wait for approval. They built belief in themselves by doing hard things again and again. And eventually, what once felt terrifying became familiar. Confidence emerged from the repetition of courage. When you reverse the process, when you wait for confidence before taking action, you stay stuck, you postpone your growth, you end up overthinking, hesitating, and doubting yourself into paralysis. This is one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves. I'll speak up when I feel more confident. I'll try once I know I won't fail. But life doesn't work that way. You have to go first. You have to do the hard thing scared. And that's exactly what courage allows you to do. The beauty of courage is that it doesn't demand perfection. It only demands motion. It doesn't require you to have it all figured out. It just asks that you begin. And once you do, something powerful happens. Your experience begins to rewrite your self-perception. You start to think, if I did that, maybe I can do the next thing too. That's the slow build of confidence. Not instant, not easy, but real. So if you feel unprepared or uncertain, that's not a reason to wait. It's a reason to act. Because the truth is, courage is the bridge to confidence. Every time you act with courage, even if your hands shake and your voice trembles, you take one step closer to becoming the kind of person who trusts themselves. And over time, that trust turns into confidence. The quiet, grounded kind that doesn't need permission to shine. There's a false idea many people carry that bravery is only required for grand gestures or heroic moments. That unless you're saving lives, leading revolutions, or speaking on stages, your courage doesn't matter. But nothing could be further from the truth. The world needs your bravery in ordinary, everyday moments. It needs your bravery in conversations, in creativity, in how you choose to live your life. You may not realize it, but every time you show up with honesty and heart, you give others permission to do the same. Bravery isn't about being loud, it's about being true. When you speak your truth, even when your voice shakes, you shift the atmosphere around you. When you live authentically, when you choose the path that aligns with your values rather than the one that pleases others, you become an example. Whether or not you intend to, you inspire. You show others that fear can be faced, that discomfort can be survived, and that it's possible to live a life of integrity. And in a world that constantly pressures people to fit in, that's an act of real courage. Your bravery may be exactly what someone else needs to witness to find their own. Maybe they're stuck in a job they hate, staying in a relationship that's slowly draining them, or silencing themselves because they think no one would understand. And then they see you taking a risk, speaking honestly, walking away from something that didn't serve you, and suddenly they wonder, if they can do it, maybe I can too. Your courage becomes their spark. You may never know the full impact of your brave choices, but that doesn't make them any less important. The world doesn't just need your success, it needs your honesty about the struggle too. We live in a time where curated perfection is everywhere. Social media floods our feeds with highlight reels, making people feel alone in their fear, doubt, and failure. But when you show up vulnerably, when you admit that you're scared but still moving forward, you normalize the reality of growth. You become a beacon for others who are secretly waiting for permission to be imperfect and still try anyway. Bravery breaks cycles when you choose courage instead of silence, authenticity instead of performance, change instead of stagnation. You don't just affect your own life. You disrupt the narratives handed down to you. You set a new standard for those who come after you. You show your children, your peers, your community what's possible when you refuse to be ruled by fear. You help build a world where honesty, boldness, and self-trust are not rare, but expected. Sometimes we underestimate the influence we have because we assume someone else will be braver, louder, more qualified. But the truth is, there's something only you can offer. Your story, your lens, your lived experience, it's completely unique. And your bravery is the vehicle through which that uniqueness becomes visible. The world can't benefit from what you don't share. Your silence serves no one. But your bravery, it might change everything. And bravery doesn't always look like action. Sometimes it's choosing to rest when the world praises hustle. Sometimes it's setting a boundary when you were taught to please. Sometimes it's forgiving yourself or allowing yourself to heal or choosing to walk away. These quiet forms of courage are just as valuable as the loud ones. They're not flashy, but they're transformative. And the world needs those kinds of bravery just as much, if not more, than the dramatic moments. Ultimately, the world doesn't need you to be fearless. It just needs you to be willing. Willing to stand up. Willing to speak. Willing to try. Willing to be seen. Your bravery, however big or small, ripples outward. You have no idea who's watching, who's listening, who's quietly gathering strength from your example. So don't wait to be perfect. Don't wait to be certain. Just be brave, because someone, somewhere, needs the courage that only you can model. So now, as we stand at the edge of comfort and courage, ask yourself this: will you let fear dictate your future? Or will you choose to become fearless? Not by eliminating fear, but by walking through it. Because fear will always exist. It's part of being human, but it does not have to be in control. The path to becoming fearless isn't paved with ease. It's built through discomfort, through choosing courage before confidence, through embracing growth disguised as fear. It's choosing to act in the face of doubt, knowing that what's waiting on the other side isn't just success, but evolution. The world doesn't need another perfect person. It needs someone real, someone bold, someone willing. That someone is you. You don't need more time. You don't need more certainty. What you need is already inside you. The spark of bravery, the whisper of maybe I can, the truth that regret will hurt more than any failure ever will. To take the step. Speak the truth. Start the thing. Let your fear be fuel, not your master. The world is waiting, not for someone flawless, but for someone fearless. And that begins with one simple, powerful decision: to go anyway.